If you're thinking about becoming a personal trainer or opening your own gym, then this video is going to show you how exactly I turned my private personal training studio into making me nearly £60,000 in its first year. So my name's Mike, I'm a full-time personal trainer and gym owner. I own a small private personal training studio in a place called Warrington, which is kind of in the middle of Manchester and Liverpool. And this is my first YouTube video in a series of videos where I'm basically gonna run through exactly what I did to build my studio, things that I've done well, things that I could do better, and give you sort of the full breakdown, day in the life, weekly episodes of sort of how it runs, how it makes money, and how I'm going to expand the business. So like I say, if you want to become a personal trainer, if you want to open your own gym, make sure you drop me a subscribe, watch this video to the end, because I'm going to give you a ton of value on the mistakes that I've made and the things that you can learn from and hopefully make yourself a more profitable personal training business. So the big one you're probably thinking is he's claimed he's made £60,000 in his first year. And I'm going to break that down for you in exactly how basically you can do that relatively easily. It's much more easier than you think. So I'm essentially a one-man band. It is just me in the business. And if we look at some quick maths, I'm not in a particularly affluent area where you can charge really high end. But if we go for a session rate of around £37.50, which is quite a healthy rate, I could probably push that up a bit more. We times that by how many hours that I'm running a week, and now I can do between 37 up to 44, 45 hours. So we'll go for 40 hours. That's £1,500 per week. Obviously over the course of the year, £80,000, minus off a few holidays, illnesses, sickness, clients away, or maybe not being at capacity, it brings us closer to that £50,000-60,000 mark. So you can see just by working 40 hours of sessions, how much that it can bring in profits. So now you can see how much money is coming in. How are we actually getting those clients? How are we actually making money? Well, the services that I offer within my business, it's primarily one-to-one private PT. Now I position the offer as that because it's giving me much more pulling power. If I'd have just created a gym, just like every other gym down the street, I wouldn't have that pulling power, that USP of it being completely private. So although yes, I have got to work hours for money, hour for money, there's only so many hours in the day, I'm always going to be that one step ahead when it comes to the pulling power because I offer completely private personal training. So it's something to think about if you are opening a gym. You may be able to get the numbers through the door, but how are you going to be different from every other gym that is opening up every other week on every street corner? As well as that, I would rent out the studio at a weekend or the times that I weren't in to other personal trainers in the local area. So they would just pay me a fee, give them access, and they would train their own clients. So this helped bump up that revenue when I wasn't in the gym or using it. So I'll put on the screen an image of what the gym looks like. Now you can see it's very basic. It's quite small. The size of this gym is 450 square foot, which realistically is just like a big double garage, essentially. It's not that big. The one that I went for, it's quite local to home, so it's easy for me to get to sessions and saves me time in that respect. It's got quite a tall roof and it's ground floor, things that are quite important when you're opening a gym. Again, in later videos, I'm going to run through my full gym setup, what equipment I've got, how I chose that gym, how much it costs and stuff like that. But for now, it's relatively cheap, I think, as an expense. So I pay like £600-700 a month for the premises. And when you tot up how much money that you can turn over from such a small premises. On top of that, the other bills, relatively low bills. We've got, you might pay for water, electric, your service charges, your insurances and stuff like that. But relatively to run a personal training business and a gym, it doesn't cost that much money. It's more the time and acquiring clients. That is probably the most difficult part of it. Let's quickly talk about some of the pros and cons that I think personal training and opening your own gym has to offer. So one of the main pros for me is obviously you get to change people's life. You get to do something that you probably enjoy, otherwise you wouldn't do it. It's seeing people go through that transformation. So you're getting paid essentially for just doing what you enjoy, so you can't ever beat that. Pros, again, you get to work whatever hours you stipulate. I don't really work weekends. I could do if I wanted to, but I try to not work weekends. On the flip side, a con of that would be your hours tend to be when people are not working. You're going to work mornings, you're going to work evenings, you're going to pick up clients through the day, and it does leave you with gaps whereby it can be a little bit annoying, but it's just the nature of the job, and at the end of the day, that's up to you how you structure your days. I don't necessarily need to work 12-hour days, but why I'm young, why the money's there, I'm gonna go and do it, because you never know when it might not be there. I still have Thursdays and weekends off, well, half-day Thursdays, so still feel like I have a good balance at the minute. Another big pro for me would be I've got my own gym. I can train in myself, and I determine what equipment it goes in there. It's my very own space. I don't have to go to a commercial gym and train people, don't have to go to a commercial gym to train myself. It's all my very own space where I can do what I want and I can train myself. So that's a big pro for me. Another con that I would quickly go into, I do another separate video on this anyway, but it's chasing payments sometimes, dealing with clients, that uncertainty that brings. But again, that's with any self-employed business that you create basically. But sometimes because I don't delve into long-term contracts, I don't tie clients in, I literally work month to month with clients. And I think that's a good thing that you can take from this is if you just concentrate on doing a good job, if that client stays with you long-term, great, you've kept them on and you've made the money. If that client goes and you've done a good job, they're going to tell other people about you and probably come back in the future anyway. So as long as you do a good job, I like to just reduce that resistance on tying people into contracts, making them pay and for late charges and stuff like that, and ending contracts. Just literally go month to month. Okay, it can be a bit of either chasing payments, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Another con, one of the main ones I would say, is that it does feel isolating at times. So I'm on my own pretty much all day, every day. Yes, I'm training clients and you do build relationships up with clients, which is great. But in terms of working as a team, meeting other personal trainers, you have to put yourself out there if that's the kind of person and thing you want to do. Otherwise, you'll probably find it quite lonely. But realistically, that doesn't bother me too much. So that's the first episode in what's going to be a weekly series where I go through exactly how I built my studio, the costs, the pros, the cons, what I'm doing with it to expand it. I'll give you a run through of exactly what the equipment I've got, how much I've spent, all that sort of stuff, my biggest personal training tips for new personal trainers. Again, I'll talk about my mistakes and everything like that. So if you found this video at all useful and you want to hear and see a bit more about what goes on as a personal trainer in the UK who runs his own personal training studio, please hit that subscribe button and let's try and create something where I can help more of you or inspire more of you and just give you an insight into my story as a personal trainer.